Speaking of meaningful, Nick and I and Isaac just listened to a speaker. I know you were running around, Paul.
Yeah.
Okay, this
Holy
dude.
cow.
Come on, y'all.
Yeah.
What's his name? Paul Zaccarelli?
That's right.
Okay. Dude died like 15 times.
Yeah. Seriously.
I mean,
Yeah.
and
Take that, Lazarus.
I think we just found our opener for this episode. GTL BeatiDudes, we are coming to you from the Catholics at the Shore Conference on the Jersey Shore. GTL stands for Glorifying the Lord.
Gym Tan Laundry.
Jim Tan Laundry. If you're watching us on the video version of the show, you'll see the beach right behind us.
Right there.
That was pretty good.
Yeah.
Thanks. No, listen, we're the BeatiDudes, and we are coming to you for our first time ever from New Jersey, but I get this crazy feeling this is not the last.
No, I think it'll be an annual thing.
This is part of our lives now. We were invited to be part of the Catholics at the Shore Conference by our good buddy Chris McMahon. He's also part of our sponsorship through Aquinas Wealth Advisors. That's not just a sponsorship. It's like moral investing. Like everything about that's not just, it's something we believe in.
It's pretty awesome what they're doing.
Yeah. And you know, when I kept telling people, and we'll introduce our names here in a second, that we were flying up to the Northeast for Cats, everybody thought the musical was back on.
Andrew Lloyd Webber was excited.
But then I said, no, we're just very much into spaying and neutering your feline friends.
Along with Bob Barker.
And the SPCA.
My name is Jeff Schiefelbein. I'm joined here by Nick Bezner.
Spin the big wheel, Bob.
Hey, yeah. And Paul Kolker.
Beep, 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 beep.
5 cents.
Speaking of 5 cents, go ahead and give us 5 stars now so you don't have to worry about it later. Yes. You know, we actually were talking about Price the Right rules the other day and you got them wrong.
You're right. I got dyslexic on your answer versus what happened. Yeah.
Yeah, I was 1 over on the poundage of the giant case of equipment we brought so that we could, most of it was hats, but the equipment we brought up here so we could film not only the gentleman, which that guy was just in here. I'm acting like I don't know him.
Catholic gentleman, John Heinen.
Yeah, that guy. And also the BeatiDudes. But guess what happened when we walked into Mass on day 1 of Catholics at the Shore? And was it at Mass that this happened?
Wasn't. It was in the hotel lobby.
Oh, in a hotel lobby.
It was before we left for Mass to go to
I
the
wasn't
church.
actually there. Y'all tell me what happened.
Well, we were in the lobby and everybody was kind of gathering and some people were still checking in for the event and everything because the first event was adoration, a procession, and then Mass, which all was beautiful. We'll get to that. But we're standing in the lobby and the sliding doors bust open. And
like
and Isaac comes in and just pulls up his pant leg enough to show off BeatiDudes socks that we were not expecting to see.
Just rep the brand.
Yeah, and then he bolted out the door and never said.
So I was pulling in with Scott and Kimberly Hahn, who were on a panel last night.
Yes.
And so we're pulling in, and I see the back of Jeff's head, which you can kind of see from anywhere. And I was like, oh my gosh.
Looks like
I
yarmulke.
didn't know the boys were going to be here.
Yeah.
And so then I saw
boys.
Nick and Paul just hanging out in the lobby, and I was like, okay, I know I'm handling Scott and Kimberly right now. But
Can I predict what happened in there? Like, were you driving?
Yeah.
Did Scott say, well, Isaac, are those the gentlemen that are on your legs right now?
No, he did not. He actually, Scott said, I was like, oh my gosh, they're here. And he goes, oh, is that Jeff? Because he remembered meeting you a little bit ago.
Yeah.
But no,
last
I
month
hopped out.
you were up hanging out with Scott.
We did the tour of his incredible, where you work. This is Isaac Sanford, everybody.
Hello.
We did the tour of the St. Paul Center. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Unbelievable facility. I mean, it reminds me a lot of our studio, just a little different.
Larger by a factor
3
of
stories, full of a
1,000.
Library, beautiful classes and retreats happening there. Very similar.
Scott's only written like 50 books more than us collectively.
Collectively.
For sure.
That's right.
Are any of you published?
No.
Jeff is on LinkedIn. You can find his content every Monday and Friday, and thank God it's Sunday.
You know, we posted this show twice a week, every week without skipping a beat, and that's because we are so committed to this show. Isaac,
That's amazing.
how did we originally know you, bro?
So
That sounds like a sigh of regret.
I feel like
Many
we
ways,
have
many ways.
relationships in a multitude of ways.
Yeah.
You
Sounds
know,
like a penance.
I mean, I think I first met you when I was living in Irving with my wife because we moved there immediately after we got married. And
Is this the first like father-son combo
No,
to
it's
have on the
not.
show?
But I think there's a trivia here.
Yeah.
I think it's the
Get
first
out.
time that the father came first. So we had the D'Ambrosios on here. We've actually,
yes,
had
yes.
three
That's it.
D'Ambrosios on our show.
That's right.
But it started with the son. I think you're the first one where the father started and then the son came in. Your father's JJ Sanford. He's done a few things, right?
He has, yeah. He's doing good work down there.
Yeah. Anytime you have doctor in front of your name and you're, in charge of a university, you're pretty well known.
Yeah, I would say so.
He's doing great work. But so are you. Tell me, where do you live? What are you doing?
Yeah, so I mean, we met when I lived in Irving, and I think have really just continued to keep our personal relationship. But then, like I said, we know each other in a multitude of ways. But right
I'm
now,
like
I'm
the
the
dial a friend.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, something's happening.
I think I look up to you in many ways in regards.
Thank you,
and
brother.
so I've appreciated the opportunities to be able to seek your advice when sorting certain things out, and then organically have gotten to meet Paul and Nick and everything you're doing with Undivided Life. And I love swinging by the headquarters that you guys have there in Irving. But what I do now, I'm the director of development at the St. Paul
Keep that
Center.
mic right in front of you there, Bubba.
All right, how's this?
We don't need to cut any of that.
I do apologize. I have a very scratchy voice today, so perfect for being on mic.
All good.
But I
You sound intense.
yeah, we can keep it low. No. So it's great being able to work at the center and hopefully play a small role in advancing the mission of what we're doing.
Is that what you do? Is like development work?
Yeah, so I'm the director of our development department.
My goodness.
And
For the St. Paul Center.
yes, yeah, that's correct. And so it's been
Sounds like you've been doing a good
I've been
job
there for
getting
about
that
5
new center
years.
going.
So
Yeah.
we just wrapped up a $20.5 million capital campaign and funded our new headquarters. And, we were working out of some renovated project housing units, and our previous video studio was like the back of a Foot Locker in the rundown Steubenville Mall.
Unbelievable.
And, the inception of the facility was like, okay, we're a world-class organization who's producing content that hundreds of thousands of people
Millions.
are engaging with. I mean, yeah, you go on Facebook, we've got millions and millions of followers. We need to all be under one roof and also have a facility that actually accommodates us in the level of production that we're putting out there.
And not smell like a Foot Locker.
Yeah, no kidding. And be able to host events in person. We have Scott and John Bergsma and these other guys. They travel around the country and do events for laity and clergy, in different cities, basically every week. But to have an opportunity to host people at a home base has already, been incredibly beneficial. And Franciscan University is right across the street, and we have such a fruitful relationship with them. And so it was really just like an opportunity for us to plant our stake in the ground and say, "This is our headquarters. This is our home." It's
awesome.
Keep it moving.
Okay, real quick, if we can back up for a second, for those who aren't aware, what is the St. Paul Center? What do you guys do? Like, what's the mission?
What's the mission?
That
What
is
is
an
a Scott
excellent.
Hahn?
That's an excellent question. So the St. Paul Center is a Catholic apostolate that provides all kinds of content, resources, and events to help people encounter Christ through Scripture. So the original inception was, building biblical fluency for our clergy and biblical literacy for the laity.
Nice.
Or understanding of Scripture is something that maybe neglected. Or at least people might presume that Catholics don't have a relationship with the Word like we ought to.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so,
yeah, because we hear it in Mass, but we don't necessarily always go and dive into it on our own time like we can and should. And
yeah, I think that's absolutely right.
Yeah.
And so now there's multiple avenues of outreach that we have, and we've invested very heavily in our clergy outreach and host the largest priest conferences in the world at resorts around the country, giving them opportunities to be able to grow in their faith and scripture formation. So
awesome.
It's fantastic to be a part of.
yeah. And why St. Paul Center? What was the genesis of the name there?
So there's this guy.
Who are you talking about?
Paul Kolker.
Yeah, that's right. His name was Saul.
Oh,
And
okay.
he had
What
some
happened?
things to say.
Why? But it's not
No,
St.
but I
Saul
mean,
Center.
I guess no, it's not. Okay, we'll just beat a dead horse. With
No,
that.
I was or fall off it.
No, but I think a lot of Paul's initial message was to share the word of God with people. And, I think in many ways, it started really as an organization that was supporting Scott in his ministry. And I think Dr. Hahn can almost be seen as a modern day St. Paul in the way that he's been able to reach the hearts of so many.
Yeah.
But then it's been able to go through this beautiful transition of being maybe the organization that was supporting him in his ministry to now being, the institution that, relies on a host of these theological weapons to be able to provide that to the world.
That's incredible.
The Emmaus Road Publishing is in there, right?
Yep. So we have a
The
publishing
books,
company.
Yeah. And it's funny because the quick tour, and it's not like we went too deep, but me and you and Scott got a chance to kind of walk around and just have a good conversation. I remember turning, I was looking at all the books. I said, do you have a favorite? And I was asking, do you have a favorite of yours? And he started naming something. I said, no, of yours. And he goes, I don't read my books. And I was like,
write
okay.
my books.
And then he said something pretty profound. He said, I'm a grandfather and I'm so proud of my kids having kids. And he goes, and that's the way I look at this publishing is there's people here that are published now because Emmaus helped them to get there. And so it's other people's books that I really cherish and consider my favorites.
That's beautiful.
Then he went on to talk about this German philosopher. You probably know the name.
Von Hildebrand?
No. This is the one that hadn't been translated to English. And I said, what's your favorite book? And I'm going to get it wrong. I'll look it up here in a second.
That's the one you bought for your dad.
It is.
Yeah.
And it was that there was a German philosopher who had major impacts on Pope Benedict, Pope JP2, like all these folks.
Is that Lagrange?
Nope. But you can keep throwing out names.
I don't.
It's like an SCH name, but it's not Schiefelbein. But anyways, it got translated through the work of Emmaus, and it's really thick stuff. I bought the book for my dad, and he's like, okay, this is pretty incredible. Yeah. But I just really appreciated that Scott was about, not just evangelizing, but helping to like make disciple makers kind of a thing. It's the continuation.
That concept of like the grandkids, right? Like the fruit of your fruit kind of, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
And speaking of kids, you got any?
I do. I have some kids. I have 4. I have 3 daughters and a son. And we're right in the thick of it right now. I mean,
3 daughters and a son, ages what?
6, 3, 1, and newborn. So
6, 3, 1, and newborn. That's easy.
Yeah. I mean, growing up in a big family, I think that prepared me in some regards for what that was going to be like. But I think every couple situation is unique. And
because you're one of how many kids?
So I'm the oldest of 9.
Oldest of 9.
Yeah, and so in the age range, I mean, I basically grew up with my parents. They got married very young and got to be a major part of, that's right, Shaben. Oh my gosh,
Shaben. Matthias Joseph.
Matthias Shaben. Yeah,
Shaben.
Oh, a Catholic dogmatic sounds like some nice.
Yeah, he's one of the
reading.
most. He's one of the most like prolific philosophers.
That's
and
awesome.
My stomach is churning for not being able to spit that name out right off the top of my head because Scott would have my neck.
We'll go back and edit.
Bro, bro, this was a setup so that we could build up. It's called a crescendo, not a crescendo. So if you took the name Shaben and you added a bunch of letters, you would literally be able to spell Schiefelbein. SCHIEFELB. I'm sorry, I'm switching the EIN.
If you took the name Shaben and changed a bunch of the letters, you could spell Kolker.
Every one of these letters in order is in my name. Bro, don't act like I'm brilliant right now.
That's pretty impressive.
No, that is true.
I feel very much dogmatic.
You're missing an I, an F, and an L, I think is basically another I.
Can I buy an I?
Yep. Sorry, we totally disrupted there. What's the easiest part about parenting?
I think the easiest part about parenting is having a wife who's such a faithful servant to me and our children. That's the correct answer. I don't want to take advantage of her, but I think I assume that her competence more often than not and trust that she is going to take care of so much.
Do you want to call her live on air and talk about the hard work you're doing right now on the Jersey Shore with the BeatiDudes?
I don't think that would go well.
In the cooler weather where are you now?
We're in Steubenville, Ohio, baby.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
It's all of us in Texas that had to convince our wives this was tough work.
Yeah. We're leaving the 100-degree weather.
Well, yeah, it's not a touchy subject, and I think we're very much on the same page, but I think it's difficult. Like I travel a lot and that can be difficult, but I'm not necessarily going to anywhere where it's difficult to be. I'm traveling around and staying in hotels and engaging amazing people in conversation every week. Like, I mean, for what it's worth, that's a fantastic situation. And she has to bear the weight of manning the entire house, while I'm gone. I'm just tremendously thankful for her.
Well, like here's a good one for you. When you come back from the travels, when you come back from the travels, like what do you do to make sure that you don't show up and be like, hey, I need a nap. We stayed up late last night having some wine at this reception.
Which will happen from time to time, but I think that I've been trying to adopt the mentality of being on full alert of being able to do everything that you can to help take care of things. I think when we first got into it, it was kind of funny because you almost feel like a stranger because she's taking care of so many things. And you're like, okay, now I'm in your space too. You're running the show. How can I be like your assistant?
Yeah.
And how do you work together to be able to lead your family as one?
Yeah.
I think is something that takes some effort. But we're working towards it. And I think, giving her the breaks that she needs, or, from time to time sending her to a hotel by herself, just to give her a break, or just spend some time to, that's right.
That's awesome. I think like, there's a quiz for fathers out there. You come home from a long work trip and there's dishes all over the table. Do you A, say, why are there dishes everywhere?
I want to sleep in my bed.
Yeah.
So
or do you B, shut
take a
up and
nap.
do the dishes? Yeah, go take a nap. Break something and walk off.
Never would I criticize any state of anything.
I know it. And there's such a blessing to it because the kids are still alive and the house hasn't burned down, and you're like, this is pretty impressive.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
right.
I struggle with all those things.
I've got a like just cool like shout out to my wife, like her approach and like just like I guess framework for us to be able to come and be here. She's like, I'm so grateful that you get to go do this, combination retreat / conference, because I know you're going to go, be with our Lord in adoration, go to confession, like have time, and like it wasn't about that she didn't get to. It was about she was so grateful that I could. And I was like, man, I don't have
And
that.
shout out to your wife.
Yeah. I was like, Briley, this is why we're together. I need more of
that level of togetherness.
Yeah.
To be willing the good of the other in that way. I mean, that's just a testimony to it.
Yeah.
Well, we
what
got to
we're
talk
working
about
towards.
the grand slam that happened last night that none of us saw coming, where we knew Paul had told us he had already gone to confession earlier in the week.
Oh, yeah.
They say we show up at this church. None of us have really even read the agenda. We're with John Heinen, all of us. Apparently you're there too. I hadn't seen you yet. And at least I hadn't seen your legs. And all of a sudden they say, oh, there's confession in the back. We're starting this adoration. Me, John, and Nick jumped up. We were the first three. We got in and out with some confession. We kneel down. Somebody walks up to Nick or John and is like, we're going to need you to hold some candles in the cross. We need 4 of you. And we're like, sure, yeah, cool. So then they tap us on the shoulder after we finish doing the Litany of the Eucharist, written by Father Boniface Hicks. It is beautiful and deep, and it was written for the National Eucharistic Congress. So we finish this thing, and then they tap us, and I'm like, get up here. Like, what are we doing? I don't know. You guys are walking up, and I'm like, those candles, I heard them say corner.
Yeah, I heard back, and I go and try to pick up the back candle from around the altar, because sometimes
We're just picking up everything.
Yeah, and it's like, nope, that one's stuck to the ground. And then I
Literally,
see, there's the lit candles in the back.
I literally hadn't even put my eyes on the crucifix yet. And I'm like, I know I'm supposed to be carrying it somewhere. So I go grab it. And then we go and stand in front of the altar, and Father Boniface picks up the Eucharist for what I think is going to be a procession inside the building.
Yeah, we think it's just going to be around the church.
Yeah. But as we're walking towards the back, I hear everybody stand up, and I'm like, okay, that was loud. And then we walk out the steps, and I'm looking at John is in front of us with the incense. There's a priest next to him filling the incense. And I go, where are we going? And everybody goes, nobody knows. And apparently we found this out secondhand now, or directly from Chris McMahon. They literally didn't have the permission to process through the streets.
I believe it was inaudible that they just chose to do it.
Well, what happened is Eustace Mita called the mayor.
Oh, get out. No way.
Real time, and said, I need you to call me right back. And he did. Calls him right back and he goes, we need to do a procession. He goes, we got it. And Eustace got the police chief to show up and start blocking the streets. You saw that guy driving around. Yeah. And then the mayor came up and started praying with everybody. Like that, it was a real time Eucharistic procession. But get this. And listen, the procession is about Jesus Christ and the Eucharist. It's about being in this prayer in the community, like living your faith so that others are, and you saw it, right? People come into the windows of shops and praying in their cars, right? Beautiful. I saw none of that because here's my view. I'm carrying the crucifix in the very front. John's in front of me walking backwards. So I'm reading his eyes to figure out if we're turning, stopping, anything. The pastor from that church is there filling up the incense. Then to my left and right over my shoulders are Paul and Nick, the rest of the BeatiDudes, reciting the prayers, singing the songs. I can even hear your footsteps, knowing that Father Boniface is right behind you with Jesus in the Eucharist. And there was Scott Hahn and some other people in the procession too.
No big deal.
Yeah. And I'm sitting there thinking, and we talked about this today, there was the gravity to this moment.
It was.
And it was a spiritual gravity. It was I'm with people that I truly have been sharpened by. And then I'm with my buddies from the BeatiDudes. Like, what right do we have to be leading in this moment? But that's God calling.
It's amazing. We get to work together. We get to have fun together. We get to spend time with our Lord together.
Yeah.
It was just like the undivided life, like truly, like just being able to live it fully together.
Well, and I also felt like it was an improv moment as well, because they didn't really tell us how this was going to unfold or any of that. So I was just like, all right, we're just saying yes. And then I was kind of following you. I saw you move to those next candles, and I was like, oh, okay, that's where we're going. So then I grabbed the candles.
It was a lot of improv training played out
For sure.
as they said, go do this thing.
Have you ever improv'd a Eucharistic procession?
Can't say that I have.
I can now.
Put that on the resume.
That's it.
Hey, and then, we're in a church that's beautiful, but the woman singing is
insane.
Broadway level, everything. And I'm like bawling through this whole thing. And at the very end, you couldn't have a better start to a conference. I truly mean that. That was one of the most meaningful processions, masses, adorations, beautiful in every way.
And I loved that the church, it's St. Paul's Church that we started in. It was on 3rd Street and 99th. And
You said this to me already.
Yeah. To go out and seek the lost with the Eucharist, we left the 99th Street to seek out.
Got me on that
It was
one.
so good. So good.
I couldn't resist. As soon as we left the church, I was like, 99th.
Yes.
Hey, we're walking down the main street in Avalon or in Stone Harbor.
Stone Harbor, yeah.
And John looks at me and he goes, I think we're walking back to the hotel.
Which is a mile and a half.
I wasn't sure, but I thought, maybe, yeah.
And that's when I took my big, strong arms and I moved my elbows in so I could have a longer grip. Then I said, this is why I did Spartan races.
Yes.
It was for this moment.
That's it.
Father Boniface goes, if I knew that was what we were going to be doing, I would have chosen the lighter monstrance.
That is an unseen test of will that comes up in moments like that when you get roped into
Yeah, you're right.
holding that. Like,
Gotta do
My
it.
hands were burning.
yeah,
that's
no kidding.
Truth.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there like, okay, well, this is, it's not that big of a sacrifice if we're being honest, but it
doing
hurt.
We're doing it.
Yeah.
Just another little thing.
Oh, I loved it. And people were like, did you see this? Did you see that? I decided that it was like, do you know when you're in a really cool moment and you can pull out your phone and video it, or you can just be in that moment? I decided I didn't even want to look behind me to see how beautiful this was. I wanted to be praying and looking forward in my job, right? I was just going to walk slowly forward. And there's something about that then I got to feel what was happening behind me. And it was very meaningful. Speaking of meaningful, Nick and I and Isaac just listened to a speaker. I know you were running around, Paul.
Yeah.
Okay, this
Holy
dude.
cow.
Come on, y'all.
Yeah.
What's his name? Paul Zaccarelli?
That's right.
Okay. Dude died like 15 times.
Yeah. Seriously.
Yeah.
And
Take that, Lazarus.
I think we just found our opener for this episode. Serious, Petro. Okay, so then at one point he got to watch them operate on him to bring him back to life. At one point they were messing up all sorts of things inside of his heart and nerves and different things. And it became physically impossible for him to possibly live at all. And his son, while he was dead, had I'm going to use the word wrong, locution? Equation?
That's what he called it, locution.
Okay, locution, where he heard an audible hearing of
An imprint, basically, of like, do
And
this thing.
It said, take the crucifix, which he had talked about earlier. Take the crucifix and go to, it was St. Paul's Church.
St.
I
Paul
think.
Church, yeah.
And he just went there, didn't even know, had to Google it, walked in, Mass was ending. He said, I need to speak to that priest. Well, that priest was Bishop Olmsted. Goes up there, and the guy who led him up to Bishop Olmsted said, there's a young man here who's completely distraught. He needs to talk to you. And he said he the way that his son Michael prayed or asked for the prayers and the intercessory prayers so that Bishop Olmsted could pray for the healing or the miracle of his dad. He said he'd never seen a faith like this before. So he took him up on this and began praying. And at that very moment, there's this part where his heart could have never possibly beat on its own ever again. And it began hitting a perfect rhythm again. But
Yeah.
he just went into this super successful guy. Went into this whole thing about when he faced the end of his life because he knew he was probably going to die. Then he died several times. Then he actually saw heaven. He got to be in this rapture of light, whatever he called that moment. It's very hard to do justice. But the spiritual world is bigger than the physical world. Okay, so I shared a little bit of this with you guys in the hallway before this, but I didn't say this to Nick. I grappled with something that I want to maybe put out there because I think this couldn't be more serious. I experienced the spiritual world interceding for the physical part of my family dramatically multiple times last year. And in one of those instances, I called Father Ken Geraci, and he answered the phone in Lourdes. And the words that came out of his mouth that I've never said on the show before, as he was crying, he said, God has honored your faithfulness. Your faithfulness has saved your son. And that's him crying out in a moment of reaction. Okay, so then Nick's sister had me speak at this women's retreat in Lubbock. Okay, and the second talk was prayers work and miracles happen. I actually shared those exact lines from that story that day. And it's not a talk I've given many times. So I'm just going just from the heart. This woman comes up to me afterwards. She's lost her grandson who was 3 years old. And she's crying. She's grateful. She's praying for my family. And she says, but I'm struggling. You know, you said that God honored your faithfulness and that priest told you that. He's like, and the question was a little bit like, why yours but not mine? And I told Paul, I was like, I decided that moment I would never say those words again, but I believed those words. Yeah. So I have this like, I don't know, interior friction or debate with myself.
Struggle.
I don't want to hurt somebody's feelings, but I fully believe what I said and what I felt. So,
it begs the question, right? For that individual of like, why Jeff's and not mine, right? You want to be able to share this because it's so powerful.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to hide it.
And it instantly can create that sort of, well, why not mine?
Yeah.
Right. And those are the unknowable things. And that's where it's like,
but if we knew somebody that was close to Scott Hahn would probably have a very good answer for this.
Well, I'm not a theologian.
Just kidding. That's not fair.
But like osmosis.
But I think, it is interesting because it's like you absolutely would never discredit, right, that voice that you heard.
Yes.
But, you know, as we go through suffering in life, I think I told you in the hallway, the first thing I thought of was just, you know, I don't know if anyone's seen The Chosen, but there's a scene when John the Lesser is talking with Jesus and he's like, you're healing all of these people and telling them that you're healing them because of their faith. Why have you not healed me? And, you know, Jesus walks through with him and says, you know, would it be better for you to be healed? Like if I healed you, you would be able to go and preach to people that you were healed by me. But how much more valuable would it be if you were able to testify on my behalf that you have faith in the Father in spite of your suffering? Yeah. And, you know, I mean, there are going to be hundreds of instances, or maybe not that severe, or those quintessential, right? Like in those moments in your life when you are going to be deeply suffering. And I think that's what I think of and turn to is, you know, we don't know how it's going to be and how it's going to come, but how can we live with that joy and faith in the Lord in spite of the trials that we have to go through?
Well, and not necessarily even just in spite of, but even because of.
Yeah,
because,
that's right. Yeah.
Well, I'm not trying to. It's kind of both, right? Because
sure.
in the sense of like overcoming it in one sense, but then there's a redemption in suffering.
Yeah.
So whether or not it becomes a miraculous healing or turnaround in that sense, every suffering, no matter how big or small, is a chance to ultimately be Simon of Cyrene for Jesus, because he's the one who's ultimately taken it all on. And then we get to do that beautiful mystery that St. Paul says, where I take up what is lacking. Yeah. Right. And obviously his sacrifice, you know, was complete in the sense that he's Christ, the head of the church. Right. But then for the rest of us, we have to unite ourselves to that. And so there is this mystery where, and I say mystery not as just a catch-all or like a, what am I trying to say? Like a cop-out, right? Like
right. Yeah.
It's not a cop-out, but there's this mystery in the sense that sometimes he heals and sometimes he invites us to help carry the cross.
That's right.
And there's a discernment in that as to how it's going to play out.
Yeah. There's a woman that I met. She's actually the author of a book that was published by Amaze Road Publishing. But her name's Megan Helmstead. And she has gone through several physical ailments to the point where she is in a deep state of suffering every day. And her book, Offer It Up, touches on the entirety of kind of what you were mentioning there.
Where can people find that book?
You can find it at stpaulcenter.com. And another one that comes to mind on the topic of suffering is Matt Berninger, who's a clinical psychologist and a brilliant mind, just published a book called Finding Freedom in Christ, something through redemptive suffering.
Oh, there you go.
Is that by
there you go.
Schiefelbein?
No, it's by Matt.
Something.
I'm going to be kicking myself for the next week and a half that I didn't, have Schiefelbein right. Well, okay, I don't
Welcome to the
associate.
BeatiDudes.
I don't associate him with being a German philosopher. And
Okay,
so
here's the deal. Don't
Come
put
on,
that back
baby.
on me.
Yeah.
That's you.
yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Well, it's not fair that half of your name was in his name.
I know. It's just a setup for me.
No,
I
but
guess.
I'm also happy to accept my own insufficiencies.
Isaac, you were,
It is what it
you
is.
were
Come
there.
on.
You were in the conversation when it all happened at the stpaulcenter.com.
I think if everybody took a little bit more of that offered up approach, though, like that's something my dad's mom always, I would say preached around the house,
Oh, right, all the time.
And
Yeah.
so it was just like, oh, offered up, like, oh, that's hard, offered up.
What does that mean?
Yeah,
Not being a theologian, there's this fundamental belief like without suffering, you're not going to actually know Christ. I mean, I don't know how to put those into the right words, but in my whole life, the suffering is where like everything else melts away. And it's like God, me, and then the most immediate members of my family and the prayers of friends, strangers, clergy, they all become this like chorus that is very, very critical. But I'm no longer like, oh, I wonder which one of my friends knows that I'm saying goodbye to my son tonight. It's God, my son, my wife, and everything else is like kind of just details in that moment, So I think suffering is this beautiful place that we can, you kind of said it right. It's not just we accept it. It's like this thing.
I think it's a
that could be-
necessity.
yeah.
In some capacities.
I mean, it's to love God's will.
Yeah. Well, and that he sees the fuller picture even when we don't. And so, but I mean, that takes an act of trust as well, right? And I love that scene. If you mentioned The Chosen, but if you go back, way back when now to the Passion of the Christ, right? There's, I don't remember if she said like what exactly the line is, but there's this scene where Mary is like grabbing gravel from Golgotha and she's like squeezing it like, and I forget if she says this out loud, but the look on her face is something like, how can this be your will? Like that, like as the Lord is dying on the cross, like how? And then, but we don't see at that moment, right? In the moment of our suffering, we don't see or feel or even comprehend, can't even approach the idea that something as glorious as the resurrection is around the corner.
Yeah. Paul, it's like I was telling this story yesterday to our friend here who's going through a really rough time. We had breakfast with him and I was recalling, and Nick was in the room. I walked in his office when I got some terrible news about Benny. And I mean, it was the worst of the worst news. And it was true that I both trusted God and knew there was a reason, so that was fundamentally stood on its own. And I was trying to rip the carpet off the ground in an agony that I couldn't even use words. I had this guttural, like agony that when people talk about tearing their
rending their garments.
And you're like, what? I mean, it's exactly what I was trying to do. It's like, can I rip something while I don't have a physical outlet for something that hurts this bad? But it didn't change the mystery of trusting God in it. It was just like, it also hurt like crazy. It made me crazy. I was like, and I was like,
I'll never forget it.
Oh, it was you and Cody sitting in there, and I'm like, I don't even know how to make you feel more comfortable with how uncomfortable I am right now. Do you want to feel uncomfortable for just a few minutes here?
We can play a game called Blessed Are the Joke Makers.
Yeah,
that's right. You like that transition?
You're going to be
the
feeling
segues,
real
I think,
uncomfortable.
are really elite on this show. Appreciate it.
You don't have to lie
This
to
is
our
going to be a
face.
big one. We're going to go Catholic at the Shore edition, 150 points.
CATS.
Cats.
So how do I win?
If you want to play, you can.
Here's a secret for any of you that are former or future guests on the show. If you just play, we just give you the points because we feel weird. So, but you judge us.
Yeah.
But you don't. You can just give yourself the points.
Is this the impressions one that you guys do?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's impressions. It's like, listen,
it's improv.
we have a professional. We got a professional here to explain it to you.
Yeah. So the way this works, we got a character card, a card from the Catholic card game, and you can check that out. I think we have a link for that. But there's a prompt on the Catholic card game card. We have to answer it as this character. You just get to decide which one you enjoyed the most.
Yeah, sure.
And if you don't enjoy any of them, you can give yourself all of the points.
Yeah, if it
Like,
gets really bad.
That's pretty unlikely, though.
You're kind of king in this game, so you get to decide.
So I'm just
Right.
judging you.
Yep.
Yeah.
But you got to wait
What
till
if
all
I-
three of us go,
Yeah, okay.
and then at the end you pick like which one you.
Who's the winner?
Yeah, the winner.
What if I think I can? What if
You can
what
hop
if
in
I
for it.
enjoy
You
the
can hop in.
prompt?
Literally
You
go
can
for
hop
it.
in.
And
Hop in.
I may not, you know,
Homeboy.
but hey,
Yes, it's
Your
up to
dad
you.
did not, so I'm just you could one up your father right now.
yeah,
Yeah.
Okay,
so here we
great.
go. So the character we all have to become is as a broadcast news or sports anchor. My old Catholic grandma is known for blank.
This just in on the 6 o'clock news. Hope you're doing good tonight, boys and girls. My Catholic grandma is known for saying, offer it up.
Tonight at 9, something in your house could be killing you. But up next, we have a special quote from my grandmother. That's right. My grandmother used to always say, raise millions of dollars to have the proper facilities for your outreach.
All right. My old Catholic grandmother, guys, I mean, you remember when I was a sportscaster full time, right? My old Catholic grandmother was super old. In fact, she was there when Lazarus actually came out that one time. And they stole her lines, and then she asked me to use them later in life when I was doing the 1984 Olympic hockey game. Do you believe in miracles? Do you believe in miracles?
Yes.
It's a stretch.
I like how you wove so many pieces of our conversation together.
That was wild,
That was a
yeah.
lot.
have any of you guys like watched any sports shows?
I was going for broadcast news.
It said broadcast news or sports.
Sports games?
That's right. Okay. Oh, I thought it was a broadcast news sports anchor.
Or sports.
Yeah. Okay.
We just all. You want to give everybody negative 150
No,
points?
come on.
We've never had somebody subtract points.
I've never had somebody judge all three
Here's
of
the
us
windup
separately.
and the pitch. Offer it up.
By the way, mine was hockey.
Yeah, it
Hockey.
was. No, that was good.
I have watched
Yeah, I
sports
think
games.
I think I
Have any of you actually seen? That was great.
just no. I think I appreciated Nick's.
Oh,
Yeah.
My goodness. All right.
Here, let's
hit another
Congratulations, Nick. Well, Nick also got some credit for coming out strong at the gates there. Hey, for being our celebrity guest judge here at Catholics in the Shore, you're getting St. Francis Cabrini socks. And actually, I literally just pulled these out without thinking at all. Let me tell you something. We are right now at the Icona Resorts, okay?
Yeah.
Icona Resorts is started by Eustace Mita.
Yep.
Eustace Mita is one of the executive producers on the Cabrini movie.
Get out.
Yeah, so this
Nice.
is not something I planned at all.
You just grabbed socks.
I just grabbed socks and I said, socks, 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 socks. And then I grabbed these.
Everybody.
I was going to go with a different
Thank you.
song. It was an
Sock-
itsy
okay.
bitsy teeny weeny pair of blue socks
geez.
Cabrini.
Man,
Well, thank you, and shout out to Sock Religious, who's I'm also wearing another pair of their socks right
which
now.
one's you got
Nice.
on today?
I have Blessed Be Here Giorgio Frassati.
Got
Love
St.
it.
Luke. What do you got on? You got on
I got
BeatiDudes.
BeatiDudes socks on.
You
what I'm
got on
talking
another.
about.
Peter and Paul is who I've got.
There we go.
You
Yeah.
can get your socks at soccereligious.com/BeatiDudes.
The website. And with that, we would like for you to highly rate our show and subscribe and like. We're not taking what Pietro commercial. Nick, when it comes to investing, I just feel like money and morality don't always line up. What's the answer?
Often that's the case, but our friends at Aquinas Wealth Advisors have a really great solution. It's called the Faith and Finance Score. You go on their website and you put in your info. They tell you where you're invested and where it doesn't actually line up with where you want to be.
So you mean I don't just have to funnel money towards a retirement fund where I don't know what it's investing in?
That's right, you don't. And you don't even have to give up or sacrifice returns. You can get both.
So just get on the computer, bing, and I type in the website.
AquinasWealth.com. It takes longer to type than it does to get your faith and finance score.
Thanks, guys. Great job, Nick.
You betcha.
You know what I think is hard about starting a business? Healthcare, for crying out loud. It's expensive. It's intimidating. At the end of the day, you're probably paying for stuff you don't even agree with. Can I get an amen?
Amen.
I knew you could. So what we did is we started working with Solidarity Health Share. Totally different. These folks are aligned with us morally and ethically, And even the structure from a cost perspective works for us as we're launching businesses, as we're growing our families. And I don't know if you know this, but a couple times my kids went to the hospital in the last 2 years.
They sure have.
Yours?
But Solidarity has walked with us through all of it, including some crazy stuff for Benny Pro, my little boy. So all of this to say, I would encourage anybody out there thinking about their own business, their own needs, check out Solidarity Health Share for a better alternative to regular healthcare. So check out learnmore.solidarityhealthshare.org/BeatiDudes.
Hi, it's Paul Kolker from the BeatiDudes here, and I just wanted to share with you guys that I also, outside of the show, perform improv comedy on a regular basis with a group called Divine Comedy. So what we do is we come up with everything on the spot, so whether you're looking for faith-filled, fun, family-friendly comedy for your youth night, or whether you're looking for clean comedy for your corporate event, Divine Comedy can perform for your group and even get you in on the action. So if you'd like to hire us to come out and perform for your next event, check out DivineComedyImprov.com. Divine Comedy, an inferno of fun.
Stop what you're doing and listen to the BeatiDudes.
Welcome back, everybody. We're here with Isaac Sanford, talking all things St. Paul Center, development, faith journey here at the Catholics at the Shore Conference. Question that I have is just like in your own life, as you've been living as a husband and father for a few years now, like what have been maybe, some of those moments where you've had to kind of dig deeper in your faith, right? You're brought into a big Catholic family. You're given this, you got this cradle Catholic, sort of gift. And right. Has there been anything like, okay, now it's my own?
Well,
And maybe it's not since your husband and father, maybe it's earlier than that in your life, but
I mean, that could be a pretty expansive answer.
Sure.
I appreciate you asking it. Because I think, in some capacities, I really feel like I'm still figuring certain things out.
Sure.
I recognize, my age, working in this profession now and raising a family it's really a grind. And I think my daily prayer is something that I've been trying to learn how to do better. In some ways, almost relearning how to pray.
Sure.
And grow in my relationship with the Lord. If I can
keep going.
I was just gonna say, I'm gonna give like a short little testimony, for example.
Yeah.
I know you guys are giving me a hard time. I went to confession like 5 minutes before the show, and I was talking to Father, and I was like, "Look, I was examining my conscience, and I'm comfortable sharing this too. But I basically was thinking yesterday was a really long day. I had to, get up early and go do meetings in Philadelphia, come over here, and we're grinding through everything. And I felt like yesterday I was willing myself through the day, through my self-reliance and telling myself in my head, Isaac, you got to do this. Isaac, okay, now you got to do this. Now you got, no, take care of this. Now if you just do this. And I was like, at what point yesterday did I turn to the Lord?
Yeah.
And so I think a recognition of the fault is almost more prevalent than what have I figured out.
That's
because
beautiful.
I think there's a lot that I haven't, but I'm really trying to, like really sincerely. I'm blessed to be able to be in a profession and have the opportunity to meet hundreds and hundreds of faithful men and women all around the country.
Sure.
Who have lived out their faith in a beautiful manner. And I try and always take pieces of just the testimony that they're able to share with me and how they've been able to lead, both, whether it's supporting their family or growing in their faith individually and leading a family. And there's just so much that goes into it that I feel like it would be irresponsible not to take as much as you can from everybody that you're able to encounter.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Does that kind of give a little?
It's great.
What's interesting is I think about the way that question was asked and you're processing. Your dad is the president of a Newman Guide school that's, running growing incredible Catholic leaders at the University of Dallas.
Yeah.
Your family is well known throughout the Catholic communities, and your boss is Scott Hahn. It would be very easy for somebody to be like, well, Isaac doesn't have any problems. Like, look what he's surrounded by. This must be the easiest thing to be just uber Catholic Isaac Sanford because of all those influences, but that's fundamentally not true. And I think can get in the way sometimes of people encountering each other. You make an assumption that
That's right.
because of X, Y, and Z, because of who your dad
right.
is, because of what school you, like whatever. like we're all on this journey.
Yeah, that was a big fear I had growing up, was that, you know, whatever I ended up doing professionally might be looked at through the lens of, you know, being JJ Sanford's son. And, you know,
It's funny because I actually just tell
through
people he's your dad.
right? And so, but it's like in the back of your head, it's like, okay, no, like I'm my own man. How can I, you know, I love and respect my dad so much. I'm so proud of him. Like I mentioned, they got married young. I got to grow up with my parents and be, you know, of age, watching them grow and develop throughout his professional career through their marriage. And so, you know, the relationship I have with him is really beautiful, and I'm proud of him, tremendously thankful for my mom and dad. But yeah, I don't know why, you know, that was something that I hung on to. And that's part of my personal journey, was like, okay, like wanting to like you don't want to just make something of yourself to separate yourself from your parents. And I think realizing that and realizing that it was okay, whatever I ended up doing, as long as I followed the call of the Lord and allowed that to kind of lead the way.
There is this sort of like be your own man.
That was kind of
right?
a breakthrough though, was that it was okay to, you know, take things as they came and, you know, be able to lead my family.
That's great.
Yeah. You know, it's fun.
Thank you. I appreciate you sharing all that.
Yeah. You're welcome.
Yeah, because I think there's a temptation, I think, one way or the other, right? Where it's, I have to do something radically different than my parents to be my own person. Or maybe it's a sibling or something. You grew up as the oldest, but maybe if you aren't the oldest, it's like, I have to go off and do something.
Yeah, no, that's right though.
Right, totally different. Or then there's the flip side where it's like, I'll just ride their coattails, but never really like discern.
Right, which is the last thing you would ever want. And
Yeah.
I think in a journey as a man, being comfortable being yourself is, I mean, a tremendous part of the journey. And I think we're all going to be figuring that out in some capacities. But that's why I enjoy like engaging you guys so much. It's like, okay, building relationships with truly authentic, virtuous men who are, you know, looking to live their lives, you know, serving the Lord and their families. That's what it's about. And so I try and, you know, live my life in that way, falling on my face time and time again, but I'm going to keep pushing through.
It's all of us.
But you know, it makes you so easy to relate with, because I think that you're willing to fall on your face. And I think that's beautiful. Like, you know, I had a cool talk yesterday. The prayer I went into yesterday with was, I don't want to care what anybody thinks I look like.
Yeah.
You know, like, I don't want to look good. I don't care if I look bad. You know, it was more like, let's just be completely present. And then I was telling you, like, I feel this abandonment to caring.
I know
You're
cool.
wearing two collars right now. I mean,
I'm wearing two collars. No, and
just
if we keep going, I will pop the inside collar. The inside collar is buttoned down right now because I'm trying to keep it professional. But I am wearing two shirts. But it's funny. It's like this. The abandonment of it is why we've been able to connect with so many people without having to worry about, like, okay, is this person somebody that can help out our podcast or that would be, you know, great for our business? It's like, encounter whoever's in front of you.
The answer is yes.
And I convinced like 5 different priests to say the word ding dong. I did. We were practicing this one.
Jeff.
Listen up, ding dong. And like trying to be like aggressive and say ding dong is very difficult.
That's true, because it's such an underwhelming insult.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Hey, I'm going to put it all on the line for you, ding dong. This isn't going to happen anymore. See, I'm getting good at it.
I think there's something to be said though for, and I think it's evident from the people who see, like from the outside looking in at the people in those relationships, when you're able to just build meaningful relationships with people without ulterior motives and, like, you know, just getting to know the person. It's like, look, fruit from that relationship will come when applicable, but you know, having a drive just to engage people for who they are is a quintessential component of it that I think many people might miss. And
you probably get a lot more out of the relationship by having no desire for something to come out of the relationship.
Yeah, no kidding.
Things just happen because they happen.
That's exactly right.
It's funny how, like, if you just encounter somebody and have a meaningful connection, then, like, before you know it, and I'm not saying this is a guarantee, so you don't do this to try to you don't pretend, right, to have no agenda or what, but like, it's funny how sometimes people just be like, oh yeah, can I connect you to this person? And next
I think having a level of honesty about it allows that to kind of happen organically.
Sure.
You know, like, hey, this is who I am and this is what I do. Yeah. And you know, at the end of the day, this is a responsibility that I carry out, but that doesn't mean that I'm gonna be trying to force that down your throat.
For sure.
Out of 10 people that you meet, there's probably 2 or 3 that you just like naturally better connect with, but you don't know who that is. So stop trying to like force it. Like, oh, I need to meet this person. You don't know.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, this is not a joke. You've been on the list for the show since the very beginning. And now here you are sitting with us in New Jersey. No, we wrote wrote a list of a ton of people that were going to be on the show someday, and then like didn't lift a finger and just let things happen. Yeah. Here you are.
Here I am. Well, I'm grateful to you guys
on the Jersey Shore. I mean, we can almost see the water from here.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's that way.
We can.
we can almost see this.
It's beautiful.
It's right. It's actually right behind us.
You have
it's
no
right,
idea which ocean
right
I'm even looking at. That's okay. Gosh,
the Pacific, way out west there.
Which one's that?
Oh my gosh, you guys.
It's the west one.
But don't forget that if you ever get a chance to visit the Jersey Shore, to GTL, and glorify the Lord with all those around you.
Jim
right?
10 Lounge. Oh,
yeah.
Glorify the Lord.
Glorify the Lord, yeah.
Gas
Fist
title.
bump.
And
It is beautiful.
Gas title and license.
Yeah, GTL.
We're going to glorify the Lord. Keep going.
No,
Okay, sorry.
I'm all out.
Last thoughts from you, Isaac Sanford. What's your middle name?
James.
Sounded very emotional.
Oh, sorry, it's the scratchy throat. No, my middle name is James.
My middle name's
My
James.
dad's is James. My son Jesse's middle name is James. He's not named after the cowboy, but his name is Jesse James.
Jesse James.
Incredible.
Yeah.
I have a James middle name. My Eustace is Eustace James. He has the same last name.
EJ.
Yep. Okay, what's the last kind of you want people to sponsor the show? Like, what's something you would
Organically, what's something you would come up
what's
with?
something like meaningful and or that helps to fund and fuel the BeatiDudes? We actually need to buy new cameras because these cameras are nicer than the ones we use back home.
Something meaningful that helps fund and fuel the
It
BeatiDudes.
can also just be like a reflection. It could be a life reflection. Maybe even something you learned last night on the panel after listening to Scott Hahn for your 17,000th time.
You know, I think it's fun to be able to listen to and engage Scott and Kimberly and Father Dave. I think they just give a beautiful testimony
Yeah,
to
that
what's
was
going
awesome.
on, in Steubenville, in our area. And I would probably just reiterate what Bob Hickey said last night is, come on, baby, come visit Steubenville.
Come and
like
see.
there's something beautiful going on there and a community that's being built, which honestly, after living in Irving, growing up around Steubenville, I thought, oh, maybe it's like kind of unique. Like that's happening all over the country. And I would hope that people would not have the impression that people who are from our area think more highly of themselves because they live as part of that community. Because like you guys have established something beautiful in Irving.
That's right.
Now I will say some of those guys come from a contingent of Franciscan grads who came and
There's
posted up
hints of
that.
it, yeah,
But
bits and
no, but I
pieces.
think it's
Flavors.
just
Hey,
kind of going back to what I was sharing. It's like holy people who are pursuing the Lord will build community wherever they are, and so opportunities to be able to get together with them are just going to present themselves. But come visit us.
You should, because I did, and I want to show my ignorance. I went to the port. It's where the Perpetual Adoration Chapel is, and
that's
a whole
right.
bunch of other stuff. The Stations of the Cross, the Grotto.
Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. But what is the real word for the port that goes back to St. Francis?
Portiuncula.
Say it again.
So there's a variety of
I put my ear up to
pronunciations.
the microphone.
So there's a
Say it again.
there's a couple different pronunciations. So either the port, I hear the Portiuncula, or some people will say, and Father Dave might say, the Portachuncula.
Really?
Seriously, yeah. But
Well, I
but
looked
the
it up trying to say it right, and I
no,
was
but
like-
it is a replica of the chapel that St. Francis of Assisi built in Assisi. And,
Oh, my parents were
and
just
what's
there.
really cool about it is
They were at the Portachuncula.
Yeah, I think
that's
so.
true. No, people straight up say it that way. But no, what's crazy though, and I think what
That's
shocks
redonkulous.
people is they have 24/7 perpetual adoration. Yes, but you can go in there at 3 a.m. and there will be 25 or 30 students.
Come and see.
I mean, that's beautiful. St. Paul Center headquarters is right across the street. We've got events. We're gearing up for event season. So we partner with the university for some amazing events at the university. There are 2 for adults, the Applied Biblical Studies Conference and the Defending the Faith Conference. I think thousands of people come to those, and we host the receptions for those events at our headquarters. And it's a great opportunity to be able to come and grow in faith and formation with other adults who, trying to love and serve the Lord.
It's awesome.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we hope to see you at 3 a.m. at the Portachuncula.
That's right.
For the rest of you, we will.
See you in the Eucharist.
God bless you all.
Thanks for tuning in. If you'd like to join us at our undersized table, subscribe to the video version of the show on YouTube by typing @ that's the symbol @ so shift and 2 on your keyboard, @ the _ BeatiDudes on YouTube. We'll see you there.